Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. Welcome to another episode of Thunderdome Metal Reviews. As always, I'm the Germany-obsessed Professor Dr. Pizza. With me, also as always, are the Reverend Ben Lindsay and Tracy, the Bishop of Chicken Destruction Newport. How are you gentlemen doing tonight? Thumbs up, Tracy says.
Doing great. I'm doing pretty good, all things considered.
Things are tender
All
in
things
certain
considered.
places, but Tracy's doing pretty good. And I'm sipping some scotch and talking to my brooders about metal, so I'm excellent.
Yeah, life could be worse. I'm sipping some Silas Jones. Thanks, Kentucky. So tonight
It's
we're
a
talking
great
about,
Saturday
as you can
afternoon.
see, it is a great Saturday afternoon, beziehungsweise evening. If you're watching, you already know because you can see the album cover. We're talking about Die Apokalyptischen Reiter's new album, The Divine Horseman, which is sort of their name twice, kind of. And I don't know, what is that, a disaster fractal? I can't quite tell what I'm looking at. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to be.
It's a hot mess. For those of you who are not watching, but are in fact listening on Spotify or what have you, you can look up the cover. It's some weird shit. That's official. So these are some weird dudes from Weimar, Germany, from the former East, who maybe are in that same headspace a little bit as the Ocean Collective. I'm sure we're going to talk about them a bit. I'm not sure it's as successful, but we'll see. Let's get some stats. So this album was released on the 2nd of July, 2021, year of the, what is this, year of the turd? I don't know. It's
the year of the reckoning part 2.
Yeah, year 2. This time it's harder. Anyway, this is their 11th studio album. Somewhat shocking. That's a lot of albums. It was recorded in the Practice Space studio. They're on their blast, as a lot of this German stuff is. It was produced by Alexander Dietz. It runs at a way too long 78 minutes. I'm already giving it away. Feels like longer to me. But anyway, nearly 80 minutes. We have Fuchs, a.k.a. Daniel Teumel on lead vocals and guitar. We have Adrian Vogel on guitar. We have Volkmann, man of the people, Volmar Weber on bass. We have Sergei Georg Lenhardt on Schlagzeug, beating thing, aka drums, and Dr. Pest, which is the plague, by the way, Mark Zakal, I assume, on keyboards and maybe guitar. So that's what we're dealing with. Possibly. So what do we let's talk about this album, gentlemen. Let's get that visual back.
Yeah, so this is my pick for an album that came out in July. As I said in our last episode, I do nothing about this band. It's their 25th anniversary, and I've never fucking heard of them, but I didn't live in Germany, so I will not feel that bad about it. There have been other bands I should have heard about that I hadn't. And I saw this was coming out, and it's like, fuck it. You know, we were in the middle of doing the Rammstein blast when I discovered it, and I was like, you know what, let's get another German band. And little did I know that it was a band that had recorded 500 hours worth of material without any rehearsals in a practice space that went into this band.
So this was all just a crapshoot, like, this works, and they put it on the album.
I'm guessing. That producer, man, he did some heavy lifting to even listen to that much material. I mean, I know it's digital, so it's not the same thing as back when it was reel to reel, but I cannot imagine what 500 hours of material is. You know, I mean, I know it's now on hard drives and stuff, so it's probably like a computer that's not any bigger than mine with maybe an external hard drive or some shit, but still, dude, that is so much.
I mean, that kind of explains this album in a lot because it's all over the fucking place. And normally I like that. And this, I don't know, this just does it not good.
It's a hot mess, man. And I'm kind of stunned that this is the 78 minutes they picked out of that 500. Not because it doesn't have some moments of, I'm not going to go as far as to say brilliance, but there's some good moments in this album, and I'll get into some of that. But then there's some tracks that just, are 12 minutes and therefore 10 minutes too long. I don't know. I respect the process. I'm easy mark for German experimental weirdness. You know, like I dig the Ocean Collective. Rammstein's fairly experimental in its own way. Have you seen the Dadaist movement? Like I'm here for that shit, and seeing them live might be interesting. But yeah, Tracy, this is oof. And I know you love Devin Townsend-esque shenanigans, but this is just
I do.
It's the Hot Mess Express.
And I was contemplating that while listening to this. It's like, I normally like, as I'm like this out like the third or fourth time, and I'm like,
sure.
I normally go for this, 12-foot ninja, Devin Townsend change and everything they do. But typically that happens to a song that ends up maintaining some form of coherence throughout. These guys are literally, this track is this track is this, way the fuck over here, not even related to that. And all these are 2 minutes, and now we have a 12-minute funeral dredge that you're going to listen to, and then we're back to the 2-minute black metal spit, and I'm like, the fuck is going on here? Like, it's hard to grab a hold of anything.
I didn't think it was hard to grab a hold of anything necessarily to me, and maybe it's because I knew too much about the making of the sausage, but it reminded me of listening to a band practice, having been in a few. Or if I want to extrapolate it out further and give them more credit, it was like listening to a jam band, because there are people who are famously would follow around the Grateful Dead or Fish or whomever, because they would, even though the sets had the same songs, they were never played the same way, because they would just get up there on whatever hallucinogens were their choice for the night and just play.
Sure.
And so something that was 3 minutes on the album might be 35 minutes live, so that's what it reminded me of. And I just honestly think that they gave us too much. I think that this could be tightened down. Instead of, they release it on 2 discs, maybe 4 pieces of vinyl, I don't know. And I think that they could cut it down to 1 LP's worth of material that would be really actually pretty fucking good, because it's not like these dudes can't play. They can.
Exactly. They absolutely can.
So. Yeah, they can. I'll agree that they can play. And it may be, I didn't have the experience of that with that sausage. And in fact, there's a moment in here that it literally sounds like they're setting up to do a sound check before they go live.
Yep.
Yes.
And that avant-garde bullshit, to use it loosely.
Sound like me, Tracy.
But, like, I can't get behind that. Like, every time I come across a band that does something like that, I'm like, why even fucking put this down? Because it's not, and you can't even replicate it live. And I know they're probably not attempting to look at replicating it live.
Oh, I think they could. It might be pretty boring to watch them do live, but I think they could replicate it.
It's that you always hear about it. The musician who played the piano, and he always, like, his first song was, he would sit there and listen to the crowd, and that was first act of his music symposium or whatever. And it's just like, all right, you're going a little too far with it. It's not. So yeah, it wore on me. Those moments, and there are, it sounds like it on this album, even then.
But that's a tease. Those first 3 tracks that are barely 2 minutes apiece, you're like, okay, Vader, all right, I see what's happening here. And that's a callback to who they used to be. Their early albums are much more straight death metal. And then they sort of became a verse chord structure thing. And then this happened. So, I respect that they've been on a 25-year journey. They formed or longer than that. They formed in 1993, I think. Is that right? No, 1995. So yeah, like 26 years. They can play their instruments, and they're part of a whole scene along with the Ocean Collective in Berlin, admittedly Berlin, or Die Letzte Instanz in Dresden, sounds a bit like this. Rammstein even has its moments of weird experimentation. So as I said, I'm an easy mark for this. I should like this, actually. But the fact that they oscillate from, here's some straight Vader-esque death metal, to us tuning our fucking instruments for 12 minutes was difficult for me, Tracy, as well. Like, I wanted to want this, and it just, it was hard. Like, there's some moments that almost sound like Roots at the beginning.
Yes.
Right? There's some almost diggy dug toasting Soulfly thing going on that was like, okay, album, this is awesome. And the swing from that to Inca is where it already. I'm sorry, I know we're not talking about tracks yet. I'll just say this now. Inca, like suddenly, like your two wheels go off the path and you fall off a cliff, and you get into the middle of the album where we're tuning our instruments or playing bongos for 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time, and then suddenly like some music comes back. I'm like, okay, and then it just ends with a song. I don't know. I thought about this. I could have easily cut 20 minutes from this album.
Oh,
just
easy.
2 songs. Just Do Ear or whatever that is, and the last track, that's like 18 minutes. I just made this an hour album.
Yeah.
But this was out of 500 hours. This was the best that Alexander Dietz, this is the best 78 minutes he could come up with. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, maybe it wasn't 500 hours,
I
maybe it was
wasn't
500
there.
minutes, but whatever it was a lot. And just, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
5 million epochs that it took them to make this. It's so weird because I do agree with you, because I mean the beginning of this is almost like Germany doing Roots, and I was so there for it, and then it broke into a free jazz, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of still here for it, but you know, it's like H. John Benjamin, the dude who does the voice for Bob's Burgers and Archer. He has an album out, and I haven't listened to it. I kind of want to, where he hired a bunch of jazz musicians to play backing him on a piano, and he doesn't know how to play piano. So it's just him fucking around and them improv over it. And so I really want to listen to that. But that's what this, I associated this with that. So
it's brutal, man. I know they're good at their instruments, and I know they're in the zone, and I know they ate mushrooms and pure human adrenochrome before they started playing. But yeah, the beginning reminds me of a Sepultura cover band like Gojira, right? That's what Gojira, that's literally what they were. Like, they were a Sepultura cover band, and when they hit that Sepultura stride, I'm like, God damn, Europe, you get it. But this was in that space for only 6 minutes, and then Inca pushed me off a cliff, and then Do Ear, I guess we're already in tracks. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that song, I'll never get those minutes back. Like, that's 12 minutes of my life. And the chorus, the roses break your fingers. And that's it. That's all it says. Okay, I will lead off because I'm already doing it. I have notes at all of these because I am who I am. Tiki, I have Roots or Soulfly or Diggy Diggy Dug. There's a little Diggy Diggy Dug happening.
There's a little
but
bit.
Anyway, that's tight. Salus, straight death metal. Awesome. Some cool layered guitar work. I do get to groovy menacing symphonic backed riff with corn style toasting. Primitive by Soulfly. Like, I was here for it in those first tracks. Like, I have actual evidence, a primary source. I'm a Guru throat singing intro. I was super there for that. I asked, is the drummer in a rubber room? I don't know what was happening there. Muffled. It was like really muffled. Morbid Angel style gallop. Vocalists, of course, we heard David Vincent, creepy choir. And then I have like a bunch of profanity. Like, if you go down from there, it's like a comic book, just hashtag hippo @ exclamation point. Like, Inca, Frost, track really drags of many. German lyrics not that good. Nox Bluma is only 1 minute and 30 seconds. Althea Didgeridoo is happening. I'm like, this is like the Ocean Collective, but not as good. Noises like from a horror original soundtrack. Then finally vocals kick in at the 6:49 mark with 5 minutes and 30 seconds to go. And I have a lot of exclamation points here. Experimental, self-indulgent, not very successful. That is what my notes are saying here. Pissed me off is what I say there. Children of Mother Night, slow. Again, they move it up to a little Paradise Lost pace. That's okay. Uelewa, bongos are happening. Monkeys are happening. That track is painful. Haka, a little more up tempo. Did I skip the one I hate most? Do Ear.
You did.
One.
You did.
That I've already said. That track is a complete nightmare. Like, why is that a thing? Can we just pause there? I'm sorry. I'm just like hating on all of these tracks, but nearly all of them piss me off until we get back to Simpi, Makaya, and Wahiguru are okay again. And I agree with you, Ben. Emir is kind of cool and grew on me. That's the penultimate track, but like Inca, Althea, Do Ear, Egg on Card, those tracks, I would not be sad if they were just taken to the woodshed and just shot. And I don't say that very often. Usually, I just am like, even Converge, maybe I almost tolerated, but Weird actively pissed me off every time I had to listen to it, which was like many times. I listened to this every day.
I was
It's no
wondering
one's
because
fault. I'm sorry, I'm gonna
we've had
stop yelling.
recordings to where you were able to get through like our whole block and
This
your
was
normal
not
morning
it. process.
And I was like, I wonder if he was
Too-
even able to get
too
through
long.
this one by itself in his normal
Barely.
process.
This plus King Woman, I was done. So I had to choose each day, and every time I had to listen to this and that and not at the gates, to give away the order in which we listened, I was devastated as a person. Like usually I was super pumped about working out and listening to our playlist, but this and a little less so King Woman were so soporific. I mean, this is like Quaaludes, man. This is like a Valium. Like I'm trying to get amped and like give me some Onslaught. Like I'm ready for some Angela Sapatrita or whatever. Classic Slayer. Nope, shut the fuck up. You're gonna go slow and you're gonna be sad. And there's gonna be didgeridoo. And I like slow, quiet music. I listen to a lot of down tempo stuff, but my go-to is either electronica stuff or actual jazz. Like this space here, I'm sorry I'm being so hostile. I'm sorry guys, like I wanted to like this album, and you're probably gonna hate me now and probably put a hit out on me, but
I was telling
Ben,
Ben,
save us.
well, I was telling Ben it had to happen to where we hit a week to where we didn't just have all killer albums.
Agreed. This is it.
Yes.
Well, I'm not as down on this album as David, but that would be almost impossible to do.
I'm probably gonna create it better than you think, but still.
I do think that this is in some ways, I think it's just the entire way that the album was made and what came out of it is a pandemic album. It's excessive. It's self-indulgent. It's so introspective and inside. Like I'm sure, and it might just be because of the fact, like I said, this is a band that's been around for over 25 years that I've never heard of. But it feels like so much of it is probably self-referential in some way. Like, dudes, I love the fact that you recorded some shit in Arabic, but why? And maybe you don't really need a reason, but I feel like there probably was a reason.
Maybe they're part of that Turkish immigrants there in the 60s.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, that's not who these people are. These guys are.
They're Weimar.
They strike me as straight Sachsen Turingen crackers, just based on their names. And maybe I'm misjudging them. And I don't care that they're just white dudes from Weimar.
Yeah,
but the Spanish is a bit gratuitous too. I don't know. And then there's a language. Is it real? I don't know. I have to admit I didn't do as much research as maybe I could have because this album.
You do need to.
I feel like I've given enough.
What the band looks like. I didn't put an image of it in here for our people who are listening, but
I'll do it later. I saw some like thumbnail type stuff, so I didn't really get the full way. Are they like full on shaman? Like what's happening with these people?
Yes, that is the word for it. Full on shaman.
Yeah, okay. I meant what I said, dude. And when I say shaman, I mean that idiot at the January 6th insurrection with horns and no shirt. And...
not as gratuitously Norse influenced, but yeah. But as far as the actual tracks, I think that you could cut out almost every song off of disc 2, and I wouldn't care except Ymir. I really like Ymir. As far as the first disc, and this again goes to our corollary about don't release double fucking albums. Just don't release an actual fucking album.
Actually, some double albums are good. They just need to be good double albums.
No, they're not. Name one good double album, Tracy.
So work Living Infinite.
I haven't heard it, so I will not.
David, do you agree that's a good album?
That is a good album, and I'm not sure I can name any other. Like I'm thinking of, because even Ocean Collective, the record company told them no. Ocean Collective, they're like, no, dipshits.
Well, this
all of the later ones, like.
Go ahead.
Me too. No, say what you were going to say. They do remind me of the Ocean Collective, but the record company didn't stop them in this case.
Well, the Ocean Collective, I mean, I know they had that one where they wanted to do the double album where they got stopped, but their double albums are, let's release an album with our songs on it, then we'll release one that's just the music from it. And okay, fine, that is what it is. And this band couldn't do that because it was too intermixed. You couldn't extrapolate the two. Because to your point, they do have tracks on here that are 12 minutes where there's like a minute and 30 seconds worth of vocals that are maybe 2 lines, and the rest of it is the instrumental track. with that said, Children of Mother Night, I also think is very good. Those are that and Ymir are the two songs that I pull off of here and listen to. Knock to Bloom, I think is good. Althea is all right. I don't hate Dwyer to the level that you do, but
hate it.
Yeah. The first 3 tracks, I agree, are probably that got me really excited for what I was getting into, and the rest of the album didn't really deliver on that.
So I was able to I pulled off 2 tracks off of this. And while the first one was interesting and I was kind of like, all right, here we go. It breaks apart after the third one. I can agree after the third track. And while the first 2 are good, I don't think they're great. But I think Alma Guru is actually pretty damn good. These in self-indulgent, and this is me saying it, 9, 10 minute, 12-minute songs are self-indulgent and really need to go. I actually enjoy the Egg on Car. I think it's a good closer, but I think that's probably that and probably the first 3 tracks are probably all this album needed to be, and just release it as an EP.
So what you just described, Tracy, is how I feel on almost every one of the others. I'm slightly teasing, but
yeah,
I love it.
But do you guys talk about that? And like, I actually have had an album I listened to last year that had a very German pre-Christian folk sound to it I'm like, maybe I should put this on the list and let them hear it and see what they think. It's not an hour and 20 minutes. It's like 45 minutes. Much more tolerable.
I would be really interested in giving that a listen. And, from some of what we said, you might think that that's what this band did, but it's not. They're reflecting indigeneity, but it's not their own indigeneity. So it's kind of weird. I'm not going to go so far to say that it's truly colonialist, but man, it's a choice.
It's bordering on. I had some questions about that too. It disturbed me a little bit. Like, yeah, I don't know. Germans have a long history of doing that. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Maybe you should give back the Benin bronzes. That's anyway. Yeah, no, it had some Benin bronze vibes to me as well. But I wasn't in the room. I don't know. I don't know. The Germany's going like through like many Western societies, a sort of soul searching moment right now about racism and such. So it's hard because the Germans really, 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 really like the idea of primitivism and purity. Like that runs deep for them. Like Carl, that was their favorite shit, was reading about an idealized version of Indians. And so their love of other cultures in a fetishized guy in a tracksuit listening to his hi-fi stereo sort of way, like they're well-worn grooves, man.
Yeah.
And they're not alone. Jesus, America.
Oh no, not
we're talking about Germany. So yeah, that threw me a little bit too, or not threw me. It's a thing I noticed.
Yeah,
they need to decolonize their syllabus. That's I think maybe what needs to happen here. And I don't even say they can't use Arabic, but I'm sorry, I'm spiraling here. Like I haven't seen an interview with them for them to explain themselves, so we're missing a lot here. Because obviously
there's a whole level of context to it that I just don't fucking know.
Me either. Yeah, I'm saying I have no idea. So I don't know, guys. You may have, I am 100% sure, let me rephrase, that you have a thought process behind every one of these songs. I just don't get it. I'm, I guess, not smart enough. That happens, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Should we grade this mofo? Is that where we're at? Yeah. Tracy's like, yes, dear God.
Let's do it. Ben, what's your...
Yeah, no, I picked this album, so I'll go first. I said it before. I think there are a few standout tracks, so I'm going to give it a C. I think it's very well played. It's actually pretty well produced considering what they pulled it from. But yeah, there's just a couple of tracks that I think are good. There's so much that's not.
David?
I'm wavering between a C and a C minus. Like it pushes out of D territory because I like the German thing. And, Ben's right. There are a few standout tracks. Those first ones and a couple of ones towards the end. I'm going to give it a 72. I'm going to give it the highest C minus. So I'm Ben adjacent as I usually am, but a little bit harsher than Ben.
Oh, well, I'm giving it a D plus. I'm giving it a 68.
Oh wow,
that's close, man.
I'm in the lowest for the
That's
first
where
time.
it happens. Yep.
Well, no, he's coming lower, but usually we're much higher on the albums that come from.
I will say the one that you guys graded high and that I gave a real bad grade for, or the two that I have. Now, in hindsight, really good grades to give Bad Ass Wipe, and so I'm right.
Yeah, fuck him. I agree. You don't have to talk about it. I know what he means.
No, I know what he means.
Mr. Warner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know exactly what he was referring to.
so,
I was just trying to decide what I was going to argue, and I'm not. So.
Oh. Well, we were talking about before we got on in the chat about, the using Spotify and the payouts artists are getting, and we can use this as a means to kind of get artists out there that normally people would listen to. And I went and looked at that band that I was talking about, and according to Spotify, they have 98 monthly listeners. So that's pushed me into the point that I'm gonna put them on the list for us to hear my next pick.
All right.
To get them out there, like, hey, here you go.
Well, and speaking of that, I want to spend just a couple of moments on that, because I don't think some people realize the inequities of the streaming pay scale. I mean, and some people are, quite frankly, aren't going to care because they would probably just pirate the shit, and they're like, well, I wouldn't be listening to it anyway. But according to a music advocacy group and of calculations that were made from publicly available internet information, for a music producer, or not a producer, but for a song to earn $1, these are the number of plays it has to get on average, and this is for 2020. It hasn't been updated for 2021, but just know that the trend is each year the streaming services give less money per play. So with that established,
Got to pay Joe Rogan $100 million for Spotify exclusive.
Podcasts are different than songs, but your point still stands. For Apple Music, it is the best of the three that we're going to mention. It's 136.05 plays to earn $1. For Spotify, it is 248.76 plays to earn $1. And for YouTube, it's 1,449.28 plays to earn $1.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Damn
So
YouTube.
And I bring that up not to shame anybody into how you listen to music, because I mean, you're probably paying for these services, and and quite frankly, we wouldn't be able to do this show without access to streaming, at least not in the volume that we do, and we wouldn't be able to do the breadth of stuff that we have done. But I would encourage you that if you have bands that you like, if we talk about an album and you think it sounds cool, maybe listen to it on Spotify or whatever to check it out. But if you like it, buy it, or go buy a ticket to the concert, buy some merchandise, because this same report also said that, and it only surveyed musicians in the United Kingdom, but it said 1 out of 3 were considering quitting because music no longer allowed them to make a living. So if you want to have music,
singer.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah. The singer of At the Gates is a social studies teacher, y'all.
yes.
Well,
so it's hard.
Yeah. And Mark Rizzo just during the pandemic had to get a job as a day laborer pouring concrete to make ends meet.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not like, fuck, it hasn't been that long since we talked about Metallica, and granted that was 30 years ago when that album came out, but the music business was completely different then, and those dudes made millions and they sold billions of albums. So I'm not like mad at them or anything. It's just, the music business is completely different, and I don't think the public perception of what it is to be a band and to have a hit record or a hit song means what it used to mean. And
you got to think about it. As much as people derided them over Napster, they were kind of forward thinking in the sense of like, this is the ultimate conclusion of what that came out of it.
Their point was ultimately right. It's just the way they went about it was, in my opinion, incorrect, because don't go after the fans, go after the people who are actually stealing from you. Because the fans are just like, oh, cool, I can listen to the music.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's a debate that lawyers are probably still having. What are we doing next time, Tracy?
Next time, we're going to David's pick that we have so mentioned in At the Gates, The Nightmare of Being.
I'm excited. Certainly more than I was with this album. Sorry, y'all.
Sweet. Well, thank you for listening and watching. If you are on the YouTube channel, Thunderdome Metal Reviews, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, rate us, review us, all that fun stuff. We're not making anything off of it. We don't intend to, but the support in helping the audience grow will expose the artist to more people and could tangentially help them.
Tell your family and friends.
On Thunderdome Metal Reviews.